Ah, so today's Rogue Robot review will be based on. Ah! Get that dirty object of yours out of my face. What? Ow, that hurt. Oh, sorry, my mistake. To think that somebody would put such a dirty object right in my face like that, whether it's intentional or not. Definitely don't need to see that. Exactly. Hmm? Whatever. Anyways, today's Rogue Robot review will be a bit of an odd one because it's technically on two robots, but it's kind of one at the same time. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about Buffer and the Armless Buffer Lookalike. If you guys have seen my Rogue Robot ranking list, which I hope you have, you guys are probably familiar with these guys, and even if you've just seen the film and all, if I were to show you a picture of them, you'd probably immediately recognize them. These guys both appeared in WALL-E, of course, and Buffer is a robot that has some information given in a DVD extra thing, probably on a Blu-ray, that gives some more information about the model and everything like that. And we were first showcased one of these models when they're cleaning up Eve and everything like that and all, but that I consider a whole different character, perhaps. It's very unlikely that that exact robot ended up in the report ward. It's the same model, but a different robot entirely. But that's just my opinion. Could be the same for Spray and Vacuum. But the point is, a Buffer model and all ends up in the repair ward. And as for what Buffer looks like, it's a robot with it's a circular shaped robot with two large arms that aren't very flexible or articulated in places, but have spinny, swirly, outward pushing buffer pieces on the ends of them that are yellow, very soft looking, and the model has a slight curvature around their overall headpiece with some connection box on the back and all, possibly some antennas, and a big black screen with two little blue lights on the screen showcasing eyes, of course. And that's essentially it, and all, other than a little dark bluish stripe that's gray, kind of. And Buffer herself, I consider it a her at times, sometimes a he, I don't know. Doesn't really matter with Buffer to be either one of them, but yeah, they're a dark or lightish gray color with a dark bluish gray stripe going down the front. And as for the appearances in the film, Buffer first appears again in the hallways like all the other robots and also cleaning up Eve. But more importantly, we see them in the repair ward right when the doors open on the very front right. And we see her in the corner out of the slight corner of your eye. I'm going to refer to it as a her from now on. And we see her moving back and forth, pushing her arms out, almost like she's rubbing something, but it's clearly just a malfunction. And she's sitting there, hovering, looking out. We can't really see her face very well. And we don't see her for a good while later until Wally breaks out of his pen, flies forward, and we see her at the far end of the hall, looking forward and then looking down the hall towards Wally and just simply staring, not really making that much movement, other than leaning forward. And then later on, one of the best shots we see of her is when the blast ray thing goes ahead and hits the big box or whatever that releases everybody. Buffer is one of the closest robots to that box, and unlike little Polly or Scrubber, whatever his name is, who was sitting on the floor, very much close to it, but still on the floor, Buffer was hovering up in the air and all. It was like on the skin of her teeth and all. Like if she was a bit closer now, that ray would have hit her, for crying out loud. She could have been dead, but she was just barely out of the way. And as you can see, when the blast hits the wall or whatever, or ray, I guess, blasts the wall, you can immediately see her reacting and all, going, ah! And then it cuts to the smoke, and then she turns back, and you get a shot of her on the left still, and she's looking back, and then you can see her on the left as she reacts to all the doors being opened up and stuff like that, and the claw arms shutting down, and she's released with all the others. Now here comes a continuity error or mistake or other robot, it doesn't really matter. Kinda does for this video. The Armless Buffer Lookalike. I don't know what happened here, because this other model is just essentially Buffer but without the arms. That's about it. So they have the separate model and the Buffer model, and they both very much look alike. So Pixar employees must have seen that other model and thought it was Buffer and got them mixed up. I think they even have the same stripe. And they just simply used it for almost the rest of the scenes. And that leads us to the Armless Buffer lookalike. We see this guy on the floor doing this weird jittering movement back and forth and stuff like that. All happy with all the others on the bottom of the screen. And then right behind Wally in a couple of shots afterwards, and in one of the most iconic shots in the films in terms of repair ward rogue robots, we see him pushing Wally forward. Yes, that iconic little moment, that is the Armless Buffer lookalike. That's him, alright. Not the little robot that was bumping the wall in the repair ward near the entrance. That's him. So yeah, kind of an important character, even though he's probably the most obscure out of all the rogue robots, or at least has the least amount of screen time. But the point is, he pushes Wally forward as a sign of, okay, I'm not dealing with this, you are. He did it. Very funny. And then we see him still behind Wally reacting to Eve's sudden appearance as he gets his mugshot, but he's not really well seen. And then we could see him for the last time looking up at Eve when she's yelling at Wally and stuff like that. And then he disappears. And then in his place is Buffer, believe it or not. Buffer is just sitting right there where the Armless Buffer look like it is. Further proof that these two were just simply a mix-up or whatever. But technically, I both consider them different characters, but also the same and all. If I were to do my own series of them, of all the rogue robots, I would count them as separate characters. But in terms of reality and all, it makes sense that these two are essentially the same. But we essentially see Buffer sitting on the floor, very much in contrast to her sitting or flying, hovering up in the air like showcased in previous shots. And we see her sitting on the floor still, and then skirting forward, and then turning to, from our angle, the right. But anyways, from his point of view, it's his left, but from our point of view, it's our right. And then he's like the rest of the rogue robots, never to be seen again. No mention, no cameos, references, merch. Not even really merch from my knowledge. Nothing other than the little Buffer behind the scenes thing on the DVD extras thing where you could go through all the robots. But that's about it. Not very much really showcased with these guys, other than a few iconic shots and little moments. Like there's one little scene for them to shine for both of these guys. That being Wally getting pushed forward by the Armless Buffer lookalike, and Buffer being almost shot by the blooming plasma ray thing. So yeah, very underappreciated, these guys, I must say. And it's so weird how this little continuity error or whatever happened with them. And I wonder if they are separate characters or not. We've never gotten any more information on this whole topic, from my knowledge at least. But yeah, that's essentially all there is to say about these two cool characters. So we'll check you guys next time for the next Rogue Robot, which will hopefully be even more exciting.